Saraswati Sri Sriman, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nityalila Pravishram Vishnupad, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Pramaseka Hosi Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sri Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Sri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Gaura Premanand. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're on Canto 10, The Atrocities of King Kamsa, Chapter 4, Text 43. I think. Is that right? That's what you got, yeah. Shri Shukaruvacha Evam Domantribihi Kansaha Saha Samantriya Durmati Brahma Himsam Hitam Mene Kala Pashavrito Asura Shri Sukra Uvacha Evam Durmantribi Kamsa Sahasaman Triyadumati Brahmahim Samitam Mene Kala Pasha Vritosara Shri Shukuruvacha Evam Dumantribihi Kamsa Saha Samantriya Durmati Brahma Himsamitam Mene Kala Pasavrito Saraha Ladies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Oh no, sorry, word for word first. Sri Shukra Vacha, Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Evam, in this way, Dumantri Bihi, his bad ministers, Kamsaha, King Kamsa, Saha, along with, Samantriya, after considering very elaborately, Durmati, without good intelligence, Brahmahimsam, persecution of the Brahmanas, Hitam, as the best way, Mene, accepted, Kala Pasha Avritaha, being bound by the rules and regulations of Yamaraj, Asura, because he was a demon. Translation. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus having considered the instructions of his bad ministers, Kamsa, who was bound by the laws of Yamaraj and devoid of good intelligence because he was a demon, decided to persecute the saintly persons, the Brahmanas, as the only way to achieve his own good fortune. Purport. Srila Lochan Das Thakur has sung, Apana Karma, Bunjayi Samana, Kahaye Lochana Das. Instead of taking good instructions from the sages and the Shastras, godless non-devotees act whimsically according to their own plans. Actually, however, no one has his own plans because everyone is bound by the laws of nature and must act according to his own tendency in material conditioned life. Therefore, one must change one's own decision. It's interesting. Therefore, one must change one's own decision and follow the decision of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Then one is rescued from punishment by Yamaraj. Kamsa was not uneducated. It appears from his talks with Vasudeva and Devaki that he knew all about the laws of nature. But because of his association with bad ministers, he could not make a clear decision about his welfare. Therefore, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:54 says, Sadhu Sangha, Sava Shastri Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. If one desires his real welfare, he must associate with devotees and saintly persons, and in this way rectify the material condition of his life. Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus, having considered the instructions of his bad ministers, Kamsa, who was bound by the laws of Yamaraj and devoid of good intelligence because he was a demon, decided to persecute the saintly persons, the Brahmanas, as the only way to achieve his own good fortune. Okay. This reminds me of a morning walk Prabhupada was on in New Delhi in March of 1976. We were in the middle of the Mayapur Vrindavan festival. We've been here in Mayapur for 2 months about, and then we flew to Delhi. And we were met there at the airport by Mr. Lakshman Agarwal. Some of you may know there used to be a light bulb company called Sylvania something or other. Anyway, they made light bulbs. So the guy who owned that company, that time he was quite wealthy. He was very interested in what Prabhupada was doing, and he invited Prabhupada to come and stay at his house for 2 or 3 days when he was in Delhi. So he had a nice place in Chanakyapuri, and we stayed there 2 or 3 days. Prabhupada, as always, observed his own sadhana, regulated activity, and that was the first part of that. Of course, every day was as soon as Prabhupada got up in the morning, or not got up, but stopped working on his books, then he would freshen up, clean his teeth, wash his face, put tilak on, and then we'd go out for an hour's walk. So Prabhupada was doing that there in Delhi, just around where all the embassies are situated. So it's a nice place, wealthy area, and Mr. Agarwal was very nice also, very enthusiastic in some respects to do something to help Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness. So anyway, so Prabhupada was going out every morning on his morning walk, and there was a discussion that came up about this, the actual meaning of this verse, Sadhu Sangha, Sarvashastra Koi, Lavamatra. So we weren't sure exactly what that meant, Lavamatra. We knew that it meant 1/11th of a second, if you translate it. But how that was to be applied and who by, we were all kind of debating. And of course the Chaitanya Charitamrita had just come out the year before. There was a couple of volumes that came out in I think about 72 or 73. And then they had this book production marathon in Los Angeles in 1975. There were 17 volumes of books that Prabhupada had translated and commented on, but the BBT was way, way behind. So Prabhupada gave them 2 months to publish all 17 volumes. So they were working with alacrity. Most of the volumes of those books were the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So everybody in late 1975, we were all eagerly reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And one of the verses kind of prompted a fair bit of discussion, and it was this Sadhu Sangha, Sarvashastri Koi, Lavamatra. What does that mean? Yeah, that if you somehow or another, just for an 11th of a second, get association with a genuine sadhu, then you're liberated. So how can that be? I mean, you can't even count 1/11th of a second practically. But the point is that it emphasizes the potency of being associated with a saintly person. And since we were on the morning walk, there was just a few of us. Pancha Dravida, I think, was there, Guru Das, myself, Tamal, maybe not Tamal. Anyway, there was a small group of us, and this question came up about this particular verse. What does that mean, 1/11th of a second? Does it mean that you happen to just glance over and, you know, in a very short period of time, see Srila Prabhupada, now you're a liberated soul? So we couldn't figure it out, and so the question was asked to Srila Prabhupada, what does that mean? So Prabhupada explained it. He said it's just like if you have a fire. So if the grass is dry, the fire comes very quickly. But if the grass is wet, then it will take much longer. First of all, you have to dry it out, then you can set fire to it. So in that way, he said, the same with devotional service. You become liberated by within an 11th of a second if you see a genuine sadhu. But the catch is that then your attention goes somewhere else for the other tenth of an 11th of a second. In other words, you get a good chance, good fortune when you meet devotees, but it's a two-way street. You have to act on what that, association has given you. Otherwise, again, it will become wet. He said, and that wetness, that's breaking the 4 regulative principles. So if you become initiated, yes, you're liberated. But if you then again commit sinful activities, then no reaction. I had an experience like this last year. One of my oldest school chums, he was actually, let's see, he came with me when I emigrated from England to Australia. There were three of us. We'd known each other for about, well, since we were about 5 or 6 years old. So I'd been in contact with these boys. And when I joined the temple in 1972 in Sydney, they were there in Sydney. They saw Srila Prabhupada. They came for the initiation ceremony. They saw Prabhupada on his Vyasa there. They took prasadam, etc. So some good fortune was there. But then as soon as they left, or rather I joined the temple, and they kind of scattered. They ended up going back to England, and they just went on with their dull, mundane lives. And so last year, I managed to persuade him to come here to Mayapur for at least a week. So him and his partner, she's a nice woman actually, and she has some interest in spiritual life. Not full, but she's got some curiosity about it, and she's become a vegan and all that stuff. So she's purifying a little bit. So I'm in touch with them a little bit. So when we came here to Mayapur, he came in 1976, this boy, to the manor in London. I came in with Srila Prabhupada. My parents came to see me. They unfortunately didn't get the chance to meet Srila Prabhupada, but they did look around. They saw the deities. They heard the, kirtan, etc. So some good benefit for them. Later on, this boy Chris, he came here, as I said, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Managed to finally persuade him to come to India and to the Dham. So when he came, previously when he saw me in the manor, that was in July of 76, he had seen, no, sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. When he came to my initiation ceremony in Sydney in 1972, he saw Prabhupada personally. And that was it. Then he went back to England. So apparently no effect, but we stayed in touch. So last year, when he came here to Mayapur, him and his girlfriend, they stayed for about 10 days. And he was telling me that when they came to see me at the manor in London, we first entered the temple room to offer our obeisances. So, naturally I got down, offered my obeisances to Radha Gokulananda, and then I turned around to them, and they were kind of standing there a little bit paralyzed. And the woman, she said, "We don't have to do that, do we?" I mean, it's bow down in front of the deities. So I said, no, it's all right. Just put your palms together. That's the traditional greeting of respect in India. So that they could do. But bowing down before the deities, that was, whoa, what are we getting into here? I don't know what they expected, that maybe somebody would wave a magic wand and they'd walk out with the dhoti and sari on, But I told them, don't worry, just, put your palms together. And then, so we next went up to Prabhupada's rooms. So anybody who's been there at the manor, they have a very, Prabhupada's original rooms there. They keep them very nicely. So when we went in, there was nobody else there. I went in, immediately offered my obeisances, and I thought they'd just be standing there. But to my great surprise, I looked around and they also were bowing down. And apparently there was only Srila Prabhupada's Murti there in the room. So then Chris, the boy, he said, I felt something there. He said, I suddenly remembered after all these years that I saw him, right, Prabhupada, when you I got initiated in Sydney. That was in 1972. And now we're coming up to 2015. And just that one, as soon as he walked in, he saw Prabhupada, he immediately connected that this is the same person that I saw in Sydney, you know, when my friend got initiated. So it was very nice. I was very happy with that. And as I say, his girlfriend, she's interested in spiritual things as well. So during the year, I've been emailing a little bit, not very much. And one time, I think 4 or 5 months ago, then Janine, this fellow's partner, she told me, actually, she said, Chris isn't really interested in, you know, spiritual topics. You know, I've been advising him to read this or get a book or whatever, but he wasn't interested. So he had you could say, that 11th of a second in the manner when he saw Prabhupada as a saintly person sitting there. It impelled him to offer his obeisances because he was with me and I was offering mine. And he thought, you know, he needed to be respectful. And now, you know, he recognized Prabhupada just fleetingly, and then that was it. But now, because he's away from devotees, they live in some godforsaken place up in northern England. So he's kind of lost interest. She's still a little bit interested, but he had that feeling of connection, recognition, something. So this is what's happening all the time. All living beings, this is the chance that Krishna gives them. Yeah, that if they somehow or another get some association with himself or with one of his expansions or with one of his advanced devotees, then there should be a change of heart. But that's not enough. Yeah. Lavamatra, 1/11th of a second, it can be enough, but only if you take advantage of it. That's the point. It's a two-way street. You can, Prabhupada could travel all over the world. He did it for 11 years. Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, if you count all the people that used to come to the pandals in India and Prabhupada traveling all over the world. So many people saw Srila Prabhupada. And most people could distinguish that this is a special personality. He's got something about him that, you know, is a little different from everybody else. But then, that's it. They don't reciprocate. They get a slight recognition, and then it's gone. It's finished. So this is what's happened with my friend. He got a little, you know, connection there, but he's too dull. He won't give up eating meat. His wife's a vegan, so she won't allow him to bring meat into the house, which is good. But actually, he said, I like my meat. So I told him, I said, the problem with that is this, it's not your meat. It was the meat of the personality that was in that body. Yeah, and now you've killed him and you're eating him. Oh. He hadn't seen it that way. And, you know, now life for him is just going on as it's always gone on. He has no association. So his inclination, it was sparked a little bit by, of course he has to be fortunate, he spent 8 or 9 days here in Mayapur. But it has not triggered any further development. So it's not just a question of getting association with a sadhu. That's, you know, it means more than just, you know, looking up and happening to see Srila Prabhupada or another devotee walking along the street or something like that. The point is that it can provide that spark. Then, if we take advantage, we feel, yes, something happened there, this is a special person. You know, we may get some inclination, all right, let me try something out. In deference to my friend, of course, because he had that experience in seeing Srila Prabhupada, when he came here to Mayapur, then he actually read the 1-volume version of Prabhupada Lilamrita. Read through the whole thing in 2 days. So he's getting something, but he doesn't realize what at the moment. In the meantime, he's covered over by the modes of ignorance and passion. So as long as we're in touch with those kinds of activities, rajas, tamas, then we can't take advantage of the association of devotees unless, something extraordinary happens. But generally speaking, people have no real interest. And, you ask them, what do you think your future's going to be? And I don't know, I don't care. You just die, then there's nothing. So that's the general situation. So Prabhupada wanted to expand primarily this particular aspect, which is the starting point, Rupa Goswami says, that you have to get the association of devotees. That's the first thing. Then after that, then gradually there's some development. Then you may come to a point where you're purified enough to take initiation. Then you continue with the process. The heart gradually becomes cleansed. And we get more and more cognition of ourselves and Krishna. Until we come to anartha nivritti, we get rid of all these anarthas that we have, attractions for material things, material association. We recognize, all right, this is not good. Sponge it from our hearts. That leads to firm faith developing, etc. And then you come all the way up to the point of prem. So there's a recognized path there. Rupa Goswami has given us the indications. There's lots of shastras that explain how this whole process of Krishna consciousness works, how it affects us, etc. But at that very first point of contact, whether you choose then sadhu sangha or go back to your old ways again, that's the critical point. So therefore Krishna, after explaining everything in the Bhagavad Gita, all the different processes, then at the end of that he tells Arjuna, what does he say? Personally, I think this is the one line that really appeals to me out of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Yatechta sita takuru. After hearing everything, now choose. That's Krishna telling Arjuna, I've told you everything, now it's your choice. You do what you want. And of course Arjuna, being a pure devotee, it says, yes, I'll fight on your instruction. But still, after all that instruction, personally from Krishna, he still asks Arjuna, what do you want to do? It's up to you. I'm not going to force you. You pick out whatever you want. So this is sadhu sangha. And unfortunately, there are people like Kamsa or other demons. This is what it means to be a demon. You have no interest in Krishna consciousness. We chant Hare Krishna every day, but if we just do it mechanically, it will only have a little effect. It's like that wet grass, it won't catch hold. But if we follow the principles properly, and we study the books, we hear from saintly persons, we accept initiation from a genuine spiritual master, then your path is very clear and very rapid, actually. Our situation is very fortunate that we can be here in Mayapur or any temple. We can see the deity every day. We can study the literature, because that moves the heart. Generally speaking, the heart is very hard, and it's very difficult to appreciate anything beyond just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. People think that, now I've got all this, these are my necessities are met, I don't need to do anything else. But no, devotional life means that we have to continuously progress. We have to take up the practices, take up the philosophy, but actually put it into motion, accept it within the heart, and try our best to make progress on this path. If we do that, then Krishna becomes very pleased. just as his dealings with Arjuna. Krishna was very pleased when he agreed to work with him. I mean, he had already shown Arjuna the universal form, and Arjuna knew he knew anyway that all these demons on the battlefield, they'll all be killed by Krishna, that's for sure. But still, he had to make a choice. So you might say that it's obvious, but actually it's not. There's so many people, they hear the philosophy, they take prasadam, they like the devotees, but why do they not take it up? You can spend a lot of time with people preaching to them and providing prasadam. That's one thing about my friend Chris. He loves prasadam. I mean, whenever I go out and see him, I take about a half a dozen bags of, Crispies and all that, from the manor. And as soon as he sees them, oh, great, he tucks in. So he likes prasadam. He's got it. I'm not a devotee, but apparently he's got some devotee friends, apart from me. And he's been here to the Dham. So we've done a lot of stuff to try to cultivate him. And I took that as a long-term project in this lifetime, that I would try and get at least one of my old Kami friends to take a genuine interest in Krishna consciousness. So he's got a few years left. It may happen. You can all give your blessings as Vaishnavas so we can save this soul. And in the meantime, we have to go on with our own duties as well. So this is a nice comment that Prabhupada makes here. He says, no one has his own plans, because people think that they're making their own plans. Prabhupada says here, nobody has his own plans, because everybody's bound up by the laws of nature. So it's an illusion that people think I'm making my own choice. So this has been one of the points of discussion in ISKCON for many years, this lavamatra, that point of acceptance or not. What is the situation of us ordinary living beings? Do we have choice or do we not have choice? I've had this conversation many, many times. And even devotees, they say, no, there's always some chance of change. They have to choose. And that opportunity is always there. Other people say, no, you're bound up by the laws of material nature. You can't do anything about that. You're overwhelmed by ignorance and passion, and that covers you over. And that's it, you're stuck in the material world. Now with this verse, we had another discussion, I think with Guru Das and others here in Mayapur on the morning walk. Same thing. Do we have freedom or do we not? Are we liberated or not? How does it work? So that was Prabhupada's answer. Water and fire don't mix. If you go to all the trouble of developing your Krishna consciousness, and even you're in constant association with devotees, still you have to be careful how you deal with your own self, how you apply yourself. You can't rely on others. We have to do it ourselves. It's our responsibility. We have to choose what we want to be, a demon or a devotee. So it's a nice verse. And as Prabhupada says here, we may think that we've got our own plans, but it's already mapped out for us. So we don't accept the idea that a living being can be independent. Independence is not possible, neither materially or spiritually. We're always tied into the network of Krishna's energies, either spiritual or material. If we don't surrender to Yogamaya, we have to surrender to Mahamaya. It's all Krishna, ultimately, but you can approach Krishna in two different ways. One is very favorably, so you're always serving the Lord and you get enlivened and blissful from that service. And the other way to do it is to follow the path of Kamsa. Yeah. Prabhupada explains here that he knew the philosophy. Yeah. When they had those incidents on the chariot, it's just about to chop off his sister's head, then Vasudeva preaches to him. And later on also, again, what was that incident? He became doubtful when the Durga flew up in the air. That, kind of changed his mind. There were 2 or 3 times when Kamsa became a bit bewildered and actually started preaching Krishna consciousness. Yeah, he started explaining the philosophy. But then immediately afterwards, he went back to associate with his bad ministers. And as soon as he got back in their association, when he was just with Devaki and Vasudeva, talking with them, he was actually preaching the philosophy. Yeah, that we don't die, we carry the deeds of our activities with us into next lives, so we should, work, keep ourselves on the proper path. But then as soon as he finished with that, he went back to talk with the ministers, and they were demons also, so they persuaded him, no, actually, you should continue persecution. In fact, you should expand that even more. Why just those 2? You should kill all the Vaishnavas. You should kill all the Brahmanas. You should kill all the cows. So this was their business. This is the business of, those who are less intelligent. So anyway, the main point is that we have a chance in this human form. Krishna gives us that opportunity that we can at least come to the mode of goodness. When you're in the mode of goodness, then what's that verse? Satvasta. It'll come hopefully in a minute. Anyway, Krishna explains that when you're in the mode of goodness, then you go Urdhvam. Urdhvam Gachanti Satvasta. Yeah, this Urdhvam means going up. So if we at least situate ourselves in goodness, then the heart becomes lightened. Yeah, the burden that we've been bearing for so many lifetimes in the form of material desires, it dissipates. And the more Krishna comes into our lives, then the less we're affected by the modes of material nature. So this is at least keep ourselves in the mode of goodness. That's the 4 regulative principles. Then beyond that, glorify Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So from 2 angles we come, and it becomes very easy, relatively easy. But if we don't take advantage of what we've got, what Krishna supplies to us, then you go down. What's that? The last... I can't tell what you're saying. I'm going a bit deaf. But anyway, we have to at least get out of the modes of ignorance and passion. Prabhupada explains that in the poem that he wrote when he first arrived in America. All these people in the modes of ignorance and passion, how will I be able to do anything for them? So you give them the power of hearing. So Prabhupada had a very strong desire to give the message of Krishna consciousness. And his partner in that, of course, is Krishna himself. That Prabhupada was fully surrendered to Krishna. Krishna was particularly attracted and empowered Srila Prabhupada because he was his surrendered devotee. So that connection we have to maintain at all costs. Yeah, we always have to chant, read about Krishna, do activities that are pleasing to Krishna. And then he manifests more and more of his knowledge of himself within the heart. Yeah. But if we just do it mechanically, it'll have very little effect. And I'll give an example where Prabhupada Prabhupada's talking here about no one has his own plans because everybody is bound up by the laws of material nature. So there was a little story that Prabhupada told us in Vrindavan in 1975. I'd just come onto his party actually as his servant a few days before, and Prabhupada had just had his breakfast. He was sitting in his darshan room, just on the, not on his chair, but on the floor. And it was nice. The light was shining through the windows. Prabhupada had just had his breakfast. He was in a very congenial mood. He was talking about how horrible the material situation is, you know, what people have to suffer in Kali Yuga. You know, just the general illusion that they can be the controllers. So Prabhupada gave an example. He said, just like Churchill and Hitler. So he said, when I was at school, if any boys were misbehaving, the teacher would haul them out in front of the class, and then he would make them stand face to face, yeah, within arm's length. And then on his instruction, they would grab each other's ears, right? So I've got your ears, you've got my ears. And then when the teacher gave the order, now pull. So they'd be pulling on their ears, and they'd be crying because it was hurting, because you're hurting me, I pull harder on you. And so like this, and Prabhupada said they have to go on pulling until Maya allows them to stop. So, you know, this is our situation in the material world. We think that we're doing so many things, but we're not the doers. Yeah, especially the demons, they think they're the doers of everything, but they're not the doers. Yeah, Krishna, and through the material modes or directly himself, he's the one who's making all the plans. Nobody else. We're in an illusion thinking that we're independent. We're not. So anyway, that's a nice example. Prabhupada used to give some, you know, nice metaphors for explaining the philosophy. All right, so it's getting late. We'll stop here. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Jnana Samudra Prabhu.
In that the book comment, Prabhupada said that we distribute these books in Europe, we'll take over the whole of Europe. We have to work on that faith of that instruction that will take over the books, will take over the whole of Europe.
So is this a question or a...
Well, it's partly a question, in the sense that Prabhupada was always looking at the future.
Speak.
Prabhupada was always looking at the future. I mean, we go out and distribute the books, and it's tough because we're always, you know, up against demons and adversities. To have this meditation that these books will take over the whole of Europe. But Prabhupada was quite confident that he'd conquer Europe by these books.
Yeah, he didn't bring something that was, you know, going to disappear in a year or two. What Prabhupada brought us was an eternal message and an eternal engagement in Krishna's service. So we just have to... I asked a similar question to Prabhupada in 1974 in Melbourne, because there was at that time a really big push. Prabhupada's books were now coming out, you know, in every 2 or 3 months we were getting new books. Prabhupada was really pushing the devotees to go out and sell the books. In Australia in 1974, Prabhupada had come to Rath Yatra to fulfill a promise that he had made to Madhvisa Swami, who had been the GBC, that if you win the Christmas book distribution marathon, then I'll come. So we were a very small yatra at that time, about 60 devotees, and still somehow or another we actually won the Christmas marathon, and so Prabhupada came. Yeah, came to Melbourne for the Rath Yatra. Anyway, during the morning walk, then I asked Prabhupada that, you know, we're selling lots and lots of books now, but hardly anybody's coming to the temple. So Prabhupada answered me a little sharply. He said, that's not your business. Yeah. Krishna will decide. He said, your business is just to go out and sell the books. You don't worry about the results. The results will be given by Krishna. So that was enough for us. We were out. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll finish there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.